Well, another week is getting underway, and of course, it is going to be a busy one in Washington, D.C. Senator Roger Marshall, state of Kansas, of course, is here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Senator, good morning. Of course, this week, the tariffs are getting underway according to President Trump, and Kansas City, it looks like, according to a new report here, could be one of the three cities impacted most by these tariffs, especially with Canada. What do you make of these and what it could mean for the Kansas economy as a whole?
Yeah, well, good morning, Pete. It's great to be with you on 95.7?
Yes, you got it, 95.7.
Yeah, okay, got it. Want to make sure we get that in, but it is a great week here. It's day number 69 of the Trump administration. Its promises made, promises kept. He said he was going to bring jobs back to America, and that's exactly what we see happening, is that President Trump using these tariffs as one tool to bring those jobs back. I mean, April 2nd is the day he's talking about, is the official day where these come in, they come out. But we are seeing more and more jobs come to America because of this. I think that the people that export these goods into America, they'll eat most of this money. But we're seeing, even just this week, Japan having $1 trillion investment in America with AI. I think Kansas City will benefit from that. I think all over Kansas, folks will benefit from putting these data banks in and bringing in more direct energy as well.
I want to ask you what you did now with the sirens in the background. They were getting louder and louder and louder. It seemed like they were coming after you there for a second. But I guess it is Washington, D.C., so it's just the sound of the environment you find yourself in. So with that being the case, Senator, there was a poll yesterday from CBS that showed the president's approval is at 50%. That's solid. I think he would take that, certainly higher than it's been in his first term. But something that stood out to me is that people were asked, Trump's policies are making you financially better off, worse off, or the same. Right now, the better off percentage comes in at 23. This was down from 42 back in January. How does the messaging then need to change? If you think these tariffs will be beneficial for the economy, people aren't believing that right now, or at least not yet. So what needs to happen to make people buy into this? Because we know Democrats are going to be against everything the president does. But even some Republicans are wondering whether or not this will be beneficial.
Yeah, Pete, there are so many different data points out there. And, the other data point I would show is that more people than ever are saying that the company is going in the right direction. Over this century, we have more people now saying we're going in the right direction, generally speaking, than ever before. If you look at President Trump's agenda, making the border secure, deregulating, driving the price of gas and groceries down, those all pull in that 70% range, no boys and girls sports, all those types of things. I think right now there's so much saber rattling, there's so much fear mongering. The legacy media is penetrating people right now. But I still think at the end of the day, that the Trump agenda is going to work. I think this is one more reason why it's so important that we make the Trump tax cuts permanent. That's worth $1,000 a month of Kansans keeping their own hard-earned money. I think there's no tax on tips, overtime, no tax on Social Security. All those things will pull favorably as well. And right now there's a lot of noise out there, a lot of fear-mongering.
Roger Marshall is on KCMO Talk Radio. So over the weekend, there was a big protest, not the first one either, at the Tesla dealership. Technically, it's on the Missouri side, but it's right there on State Line Road. So there were protesters technically on your side of the state. You're seeing this all over the country, but Kansas City has had a lot of these protests at this Tesla dealership. What are you hearing from other folks around the country as these protests at these dealerships are continuing to grow in a way that's supposed to, I guess, pressure Elon Musk to stop with Doge? Or I'm not really sure and clear on what the end game is here, but it's happening right, 5 miles down the road from where we're at right now.
Yeah, so, 10 years ago, Elon Musk was an American hero. He was the brightest person in the world. His Tesla was going to save the planet. And today, Democrats see him as the evil Dr. Death, I guess. Look, I'm happy people have their First Amendment right to protest. I think we always will condemn vandalism. That's what doesn't make sense to me. When the people on the right are upset, we protest, but we don't vandalize. We don't tear things down. I think, again, if you look at the polling, 60% of Americans or more support making the government smaller, downsizing it. And to his credit, he's out there finding all these these kinks in the armor. Goodness, the government issued over $4 trillion of checks without any accountability over the last 4 to 5 years. So I think that we have to go beyond the hype and look at what we're doing here. We need to balance our budget. $36 trillion in debt. We're going to spend $2 trillion more this year than we take in, and he's trying to help us get to that balanced budget point.
So what about also on that front? I saw that you had a post up on potential cuts coming to HHS, Health and Human Services, which, of course, is now being led by RFK Jr., and the growth in administrators. I mean, people think that any kind of a cut to the government is going to be a service cut to the taxpayer. But it really seems like these things have become jobs programs for adults in large part. So how bloated is that administrative bureaucracy within the HHS, and what would you ideally like to see done on that front?
Right, Pete. Well, you nailed it. Under Joe Biden, the number of people employed at HHS went from 82,000 to 92,000. It went from 82 to 92,000. There's 28 agencies within HHS. Think about, CMS, Medicaid, Medicare, and a whole list of others as well. CDC, if I didn't mention that one, as well. So 28 agencies. What Secretary Kennedy told us his plans were to condense those 28 agencies into 15, and you're going to eliminate duplication of services. So think about HR people for 28 agencies. Why not have just 15? Think about legal services, advising all the things that HHS does. Let's take that from 28 down to 15 as well. The IT support. Listen, NIH alone has over 700 IT systems. You look at the CMS org chart, it's 80 pages long. So there's a huge bloat. I think that we want to make sure that we're saving the mission-critical jobs and get rid of the bloat, get rid of the administrative functions up here. And again, I think America supports this direction. And even on the research standpoint, we want to eliminate people that want to research unimportant things, I'll say that, and have a focus on nutrition right now. We want folks researching nutrition. I'm never going to be able to save Medicare and Medicaid if we don't make America healthy again.
Roger Marshall's on KCMO. Last week, a lot of people reached out to us after Mark Levin, who airs on KCMO from 5 to 8, was very critical of your defending Qatar, and this comes as he claims they are collaborating with Iran and sheltering Hamas leaders, and he called you a puppet for Qatar. How would you respond to Mark Levin and his comments last week here on KCMO and across the country?
Yeah, LP, well, first of all, no one's been more pro-Israel than I have been. That's something I was taught in Sunday school, taught by my parents as well. No one's fought harder against anti-Semitism than I have. I've been calling for it. I think I was the first one to call for this anti-Semitism commission and trying to get some Kansans actually to lead that commission as well. When I think of Qatar, I want your listeners to remember what they've done for America. Let's go back to the debacle of the Afghanistan evacuation. 120,000 people were evacuated in an emergency situation. Qatar opened up the airfield base, which they've given to the United States since 9/11. And 60,000 people touched that Air Force base on their way home. Without that, I think thousands of Americans would have died. I think about Qatar's role recently. Freeing American hostages, Qatar largely responsible for that. Over 100 Israeli hostages released basically by the efforts of Qatar. And just remind everybody that President Trump and his Middle East envoy both think that Qatar has been a great ally, a great helper as we try to find peace in the Middle East. I think that we have to, as Americans, I think we do have some prejudice against people from the Middle East, especially Muslims. The Qataris are basically a very peaceful group of people that value family, that value faith as well. So, I'm pro-Israel, but I'm also pro-American allies, and Qatar's been a great ally to America, especially since this Afghanistan withdrawal issue.
So would you say that they are not then sheltering any of these leaders? Is that your contention then?
Well, think about this. America asked Qatar to host the people that they're referring to. So America asked Qatar to do that for whatever reason. I think more than 20 years ago as well. I think sheltering is the wrong term. I think that there are some people there that Americans would have significant disagreements with that are in Qatar right now. But again, America asked Qatar to set this pseudo embassy up for these people, and it allows us an opportunity to talk with them rather than just kill each other. Look, I think the ultimate goal here is that we stop the killing in the Middle East, we stop the killing in Ukraine as well.
Roger Marshall on KCMO Talk Radio. Well, Senator, it is always great to have you here. And I know you're following the Royals from afar after the opening weekend. They lost 2 or 3 to Cleveland, but we're optimistic they're going to turn things around.
Yeah, the bright spot was that second game we won. Our relief came in and shut them down for 4 innings, 4 scoreless innings. For the Royals to win, we have to have good relief pitching, and we got to come back that the NFL draft is approaching soon as well, so we got to come back and talk about that as well.
We will do that. You're right. That is coming up here just a couple of weeks away. Can't believe it. Senator, it's going to be a very busy week in D.C. We appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Pete. Thanks for putting up with the sound. I'm out here at the Tidal Basin. It's Cherry Blossom Week, and we're doing some live hits from down here. So sorry about the extra noise.
No problem at all. Thank you, Senator. Have a great week.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
All right, Roger Marshall on KCMO Talk Radio.